You're standing against powerful people." The judge's voice cut through the courtroom, flat and merciless. His eyes pinned me like I was nothing. Then, the gavel slammed, a thunderclap silencing the room. Across the aisle, my ex-husband smirked, his lawyer at his side, and I knew. They thought I was already finished. For a moment, the air left my lungs. Powerful people? The judge's words slammed harder than the gavel. His eyes told me I was nothing. Across the aisle, David smirked. His hand brushed Rachel Carter's, his lawyer, his companion, as if their little display would gut me. And it did, because Emily saw it too. My daughter turned away, shame clouding her face. Then Rachel's voice cut like a knife. "My client has been nothing but generous with Mrs. Hayes. She lived off his hard work for years." Gasps rippled through the gallery. I gripped the table, knuckles white. Did she even know the nights I scrubbed floors so David could study law? Without me, he would have had nothing. "Mom," Emily whispered, tears in her eyes, "maybe it's time to just let go." Let go? Of what? My dignity? My truth? Number? Not anymore. Because what they didn't know was that I wasn't walking into this courtroom empty-handed. I had something they hadn't counted on. And when I used it, the judge himself would freeze. If you were in my shoes watching your ex-husband and his lover erase your life in front of your child, would you stay silent or would you fight? Before we dive deeper into today's story, don't forget to subscribe to Twist Stories and turn on the notification bell. Here, you'll always find stories of sacrifice, betrayal, and those jaw-dropping tables turned that remind us justice has many faces. Where are you watching from today? Drop a comment below. I'd love to know, and who knows? The next story might echo your own life. Now, back to the smirk on David's lips and the fire rising in my chest, because this wasn't about money. This was about truth. The courtroom felt colder that morning, though maybe it was just me. I sat alone at the plaintiff's table, trying to steady my breath, the polished wood beneath my fingertips cool and slick. Around me, whispers floated like venom. "Why is she even here?" someone behind me muttered. "She was just a wife," another voice hissed. "He was the lawyer, the successful one. She should be grateful for what she got." Grateful. That word again. My whole life it had been the collar around my neck. Then she arrived. Rachel Carter. She strutted into the room like it was her private stage, her heels clicking in sharp rhythm, her crimson lips curling in a smile that never reached her eyes. She leaned toward David, my ex-husband, and whispered something that made him laugh, loud and confident. Cruel. He didn't even bother glancing my way. When the proceedings began, Rachel rose with the kind of certainty only arrogance can fuel. She held up glossy photos of David shaking hands with clients, smiling at firm events, standing in front of office towers. "This," she announced, her voice carrying, "is the man who built his empire from nothing. Alone. Every dollar, every client, every success. His." The room hummed with approval. Then Rachel's hand swept toward me. "And this," she sneered, "is the woman who now claims a piece of it. A woman who never stepped foot in this courtroom until today. A woman who lived off his income, his ambition, his sweat." Gasps rippled through the gallery. My cheeks burned. My heart hammered against my ribs. David folded his arms, basking in the attention. His voice carried across the room like poison. She never worked a day in her life for the firm. Her contributions? Making dinner, folding laundry, nothing more. The words hit harder than a slap. If you've ever been told your existence, your sacrifices, your very years of service to a family amounted to nothing, you'll understand the twisting sickness in my stomach. I remembered the nights I balanced bills by candlelight while David studied, the hours I scrubbed floors, the mornings I left home before sunrise so he could sleep, the dreams I tucked away into silence while his flourished. But none of that mattered here. Not in this room. Not in their version of the story. Your Honor, Rachel pressed, her voice sharp as a blade. We have evidence Mrs. Hayes never contributed financially or professionally to the firm. She exploits the generosity of my client. She clicked her fingers. An assistant rolled in a screen. Slides flashed. Selective bank records, photos of me shopping for groceries, attending charity events. Out of context, every image screamed idleness, dependency. I could almost hear the unspoken accusation forming in the gallery. Gold digger. Emily shifted in her seat. My daughter bit her lip, eyes clouded. Then she turned toward me, her voice barely above a whisper. Mom, maybe they're right. Maybe it's time to stop fighting. Her words cut deeper than David's contempt or Rachel's sneer. My own daughter, my flesh and blood, didn't see me, not yet. I swallowed the lump in my throat and whispered back, One day, Emily, you'll understand. Rachel's voice sliced through the silence. Your Honor, this case is nothing more than a desperate attempt from a bitter ex-wife to cling to relevance. The gallery chuckled. Their laughter stung like salt in an open wound. But I did not rise. Not yet. Because in my bag, folded neatly in a plain envelope, were documents no one here had seen. Not David. Not Rachel. Not even Emily. I thought about pulling them out then and there. Ending this farce. Proving them all wrong. But I didn't. Because sometimes timing is everything. Instead, I met Rachel's gaze and gave the faintest of smiles. It startled her, just for a moment. Perhaps she expected me to cry, to beg, to collapse. But I didn't. And in that flicker of confusion across her face, I found my strength. Mrs. Hayes, the judge said, his voice stern, do you have anything to counter these claims? I opened my mouth, but before I could answer, David leapt in. She has nothing, Your Honor. She's here to humiliate me, to drain me. She's always been a burden. A burden. That was the word he chose. My hands trembled under the table, but I steadied them. I had been called worse. I had survived worse. So I lifted my chin, looked the judge square in the eye, and said, Not today, Your Honor. But soon the gallery murmured. The judge frowned. Rachel smirked again, confident, and then David leaned toward her, his voice low but loud enough for me to hear. She's got nothing. She's finished, but he was wrong, because in that envelope lay the truth that would turn their smirks into silence, the truth that would make even the judge freeze. And for the first time in years, I felt it, the faintest flicker of power returning to me. If you've ever been underestimated, written off as nothing, you know the quiet satisfaction of holding a secret that can shatter every lie. I clutched my bag tighter, and I waited. Because their downfall was coming, they just didn't know it yet. They told me later that the third day in court looked different on camera, the kind of silence that makes a room feel like it's holding its breath. To me, it felt heavier. The chatter in the gallery had a smugness now, the sort that comes when people gather not to watch justice, but to watch someone they've already decided is broken. David entered with that practiced swagger, and Rachel at his side was perfection in heels and posture, the picture of confidence. She bent to his ear, said something private, and they laughed. The sound landed on me like gravel thrown against glass. All the small private cruelties we'd learned to ignore at home were on display now, amplified. The judge took his seat, and the hush slammed down. His eyes flicked over me, a quick appraisal, the kind that measures someone's value in seconds, then lingered a fraction too long on David and Rachel, as if gravity itself leaned toward them. Let's proceed, Judge Thompson said, voice even, the gavel waiting like a punctuation mark. Rachel stood. She had that blade-sharp air, the smile that cuts. Your Honor, she announced, It is abundantly clear Mrs. Hayes has no evidence, no contribution, and no legal claim. My client built everything from nothing. We ask for dismissal. Her certainty landed like a verdict from the gallery before the judge had opened his mouth. Heads nodded. People leaned forward. Mouths formed the private verdict they already preferred. I watched Emily in the crowd. She had become a barometer of the room. Her small gestures told me where the tide flowed. She kept her hands folded, eyes low, as if making herself small could make the world kinder. When the judge turned to me, his look held a polite impatience. "Mrs. Hayes, unless you have something new, I see no reason not to grant this motion." Silence felt like pressure. My knees shook. For years, I had been trained to weigh my words, to make a life out of small, careful steps. Today, every step had been cataloged as evidence of my insignificance. My mouth felt dry. My past felt loud in my veins. Then some voice inside me, small but steady, calm, said, "Enough." I stood. My knees trembled, but my spine held straight. I put my hand on the table to steady myself and met the judge's eyes. "Your Honor," I said, voice clearer than I felt, "I have been silent long enough." Rachel rolled her eyes. It was theatrical, like a stage cue. David smirked, the same small, practiced expression that had gotten him applause at dinners and nods in boardrooms. The judge's patience thinned. I could see the docket in his head, the neat order of the day. He had not come to be surprised. I reached into my bag with deliberate slowness, fingers finding the plain envelope I had kept folded and flat like a secret muscle. My heart hammered against my ribs so loudly I feared it would betray me. Weeks of planning, years of patient endurance, every unpaid bill, every midnight of worry, every small humiliation had prepared me for this single movement. I slid the envelope across the table. "This," I said, and let the paper speak through my hands as I pushed it forward, "is the truth." A sound like a dropped plate moved through the room. Rachel's smile faltered. David's smirk seemed to hesitate. The judge adjusted his glasses and reached for the documents as if touching them might make the facts less real. He read. His eyebrows knitted, then arched. Then, impossibly, his face went slack. For the first time since this trial began, he froze. "What is this?" His voice came out small, human. It was the kind of question you ask when the ground shifts beneath your feet. I swallowed, breathed, and then spoke without hurry. "Articles of incorporation, the founding documents of Hayes and Carter Law, filed 25 years ago. Turn to page 3, please, Your Honor." Paper turned slowly, the rustle as loud as a shout. There in black ink and official seal sat a name, Margaret Hayes, my name. The signature was precise, legal, undeniable. You could have heard a pin drop. Rachel's color drained. David's jaw worked. The confident mask slipped back, revealing something twitching beneath, anger, fear, the recognition of being shown wrong in public. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. Her eyes jumped between me and the documents, the world tilting. "That's impossible," Rachel snapped, as if repetition could wrest the symbol back from the page. "You forged this." "You planted this, am I said softly. My voice firmed as I walked the room with it. While David studied, while Rachel was still in grade school, I registered the firm. I secured the first clients. I wrote the checks when the lights were on, but the clients were not. I may have stepped back to raise our family, but the foundation, the one you all walk into and praise, was built on work I did. Every word landed like a stone. I could feel the gallery tilt, their smugness cracked. The narrative they'd rehearsed, that I was a charity case, had a sudden seam. David slammed his fist down. The sound echoed like a child's tantrum disguised as outrage. "This is a trick," he barked. "I was the face. I was the one in court. I was the one with clients." "Perhaps," I said, and there was no triumph in my voice, only the steady truth of my years. But without me, there would be no court to enter, no clients to seat, no firm for you to call your own. Rachel's composure frayed. She rifled through papers like someone trying to find something that would erase what she had just seen. This is irrelevant. This is ancient history, she said, words tumbling faster, thinner. The judge's hands hovered over the documents. For a breath, he seemed swallowed by the paper. Then, with a small, constrained exhale, he looked up. His expression was different. The easy certainty gone, replaced by the weight of new facts. In that pause, everything shifted. I was no longer the woman shrinking beneath a room full of judgment. The eyes that had once dismissed me found new currency. People leaned forward, not to witness a collapse, but to witness a reckoning. I stepped closer to the bench, letting my voice carry. You call me greedy. You call me a burden. Look at the records. Look at the signatures. Who has been honest with this court? Who has been building on borrowed foundations? A ripple moved through the gallery. Disbelief, then laughter. Sharp, incredulous. Then dawning shame. Rachel tried again, voice thinner. Even if she signed these, she hasn't worked at the firm for decades. I cut her off, not in anger, but with the calm of someone who'd rehearsed this moment in silence 1,000 nights. And yet you stand here, Rachel Carter, as an attorney of Hayes and Carter Law, a firm that bears my name, which technically makes you my employee. The words landed like a reveal in slow motion. Rachel's cheeks paled. David's face lost its color. The sound that followed was half suppressed laughter, half gasps, the sound people make when the script suddenly flips. The judge cleared his throat, still trying to find purchase. This changes things, he said, and the 3 words carried the weight of a turning tide. David's voice cracked as he lashed out, "You can't do this. You can't take everything from me." I met him across that small strip of courtroom floor. Once my kitchen, once my life, and I felt no satisfaction in his defeat. I felt only a long-denied equilibrium. "I'm not taking anything, David," I said. "I'm taking back what was always mine." Emily broke then, not with shame, but with relief and apology. She pushed through the rows and came to my side, eyes wet. "Mom, I didn't know. I'm so sorry." Her arms found me, and for the first time in so many years, I let the comfort of that small human thing steady me. The room hummed with new attention. Every whisper that had once dismissed me now carried a different tone: curiosity, respect, and that inevitable human appetite for righting what felt wrong. As I stood there, the envelope spent and empty on the table, I felt something inside uncoil. The shift was not merely in the paper or the judge's expression. It was in my posture, the way I let my voice carry now without apology. For years I had carried silence like a coat. I shrugged it off that day and felt the light for the first time in a long time. Mini cliffhanger. The judge will have to respond. The case will be recalibrated, and someone in that room will not leave the same as they came in. But that answer, and the fallout, was not mine to give yet. The moment the judge's voice faltered, the courtroom shifted. Just minutes ago, I was the greedy ex-wife, whispered about with contempt. Now the gallery stared wide-eyed, mouths open. The founding papers on the judge's bench had redrawn the battlefield. Rachel Carter, once the embodiment of composure, fumbled with her notes. Her voice cracked. "Your Honor, this cannot negate years of Mr. Hayes's work. Founding signatures don't mean ownership." The judge lifted his hand, silencing her. His tone was unsteady for the first time. "Miss Carter, the documents show Mrs. Hayes as founder and majority shareholder. That is not a trivial matter." The gallery buzzed like bees stirred from a hive. A dozen phones discreetly rose to capture the scene because no one wanted to forget this moment. Then David exploded. He shot up, his face crimson, veins straining at his neck. She's lying! She forged this. Enough! The judge thundered, the gavel cracking like a rifle shot. The sound jolted even the people in the last row into silence. But David wasn't finished. He jabbed a trembling finger at me. She never worked a day in her life. She was just my wife. Nothing more. This is all a ploy to ruin me. I stood deliberately, letting silence stretch. Every eye turned. I inhaled, steadying my voice. "Do you know what it means?" I began, my tone low but carrying, to pour every ounce of yourself into someone else's dream, to sacrifice your health, your time, your youth, so they can rise? And then, after all that, to be told you are nothing? A hush fell like a curtain. Even Judge Thompson leaned forward, listening. "That is what I endured," I continued, "but I never asked for glory. I never asked for credit. All I wanted was respect. And today, David, I will no longer let you erase me." A gasp swept through the crowd. A ripple of murmurs followed, no longer mocking but stunned. Rachel rallied, desperate. "Your Honor, she still has no standing. This is—" I cut her off, sharp as glass. "Rachel Carter, do you realize what this means? You've built your career in a firm founded by the woman you're trying to destroy. I am not just David's ex-wife. I am your employer." The gallery broke into shocked laughter and whispers. Faces turned to Rachel with wide eyes, some amused, others pitying. Her complexion drained, her jaw tightened. For the first time, her practiced confidence crumbled. The judge shifted in his seat, glancing again at the seal and signature. His eyes met mine with a weight that was no longer skepticism but respect. David lunged forward, shouting, voice cracking, "She's twisting everything! She's humiliating me!" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I met his frantic gaze with steady calm. "David, I gave you everything. I believed in you when no one else did, and you repaid me with betrayal. Now all I am doing is reminding the world whose shoulders carried your empire." His mouth opened, then closed. His fists clenched, then loosened, useless. For the first time in decades, he looked small. The judge cleared his throat. His words landed with finality. "It is clear this case cannot proceed as previously assumed. Mrs. Hayes's ownership and contributions are undeniable. The standing of both parties must be re-evaluated." The gavel struck. A shift complete. Rachel collapsed into her chair, her shoulders bowed. David slumped beside her, his once proud figure pale and hollow. The man who entered with swagger was now just a shadow. In the gallery, Emily broke. Tears welled, not from shame but release. She rushed to my side, clutching my hand. "Mom," she whispered through sobs, "I'm so sorry." "I should have believed you." I wrapped an arm around her, steady, protective. "It's enough that you see me now, sweetheart." The judge called for recess, but everyone knew the trial had already shifted in spirit. The truth had spoken. Nothing could unmake it. As I gathered my papers, Rachel leaned toward David, her whisper sharp. "You never told me she was the founder." His voice was broken, a mutter. "I didn't think it mattered." Her eyes sliced him. "It matters." For the first time in years, I almost smiled, because for years I had been invisible. For years they had spoken over me, dismissed me, reduced me to just the wife. But not today. Today the truth cut sharper than their lies. And the best revenge? I hadn't screamed. I hadn't begged. I hadn't fought dirty. I had simply told the truth. The courtroom emptied slowly, buzzing with new energy. Some faces looked at me with awe, others with respect. Emily's hand gripped mine tighter, a tether pulling me into the light. For the first time in years, I felt whole, not triumphant, whole. And as I walked out, I realized I hadn't won by destroying David. I had won by refusing to be erased. Because freedom doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's the quiet exhale when a woman finally reclaims her name. The gavel's echo still lingered in my ears when the courthouse doors swung open and sunlight poured over me. For years I had walked into that building feeling smaller, diminished. But as I stepped outside this time, the air itself felt different, lighter, warmer, almost as if the sky had been waiting for me to walk out free of David's shadow. Flashbulbs erupted. Reporters crowded the steps, their voices sharp and eager. "Mrs. Hayes, how does it feel to finally be vindicated? Did you always know this day would come? What message do you have for other women in your position?" Their questions ricocheted, but I didn't answer. Not yet. Some truths are not meant to be rushed. They deserve silence, the kind that gives them room to breathe. Beside me, Emily clung to my arm. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes rimmed with red from crying. She stopped suddenly, halfway down the steps, tugging me to face her. "Mom," she whispered, voice trembling. "I was wrong. I believed him. I thought you were bitter, that you just wanted money. I didn't see what you gave up for us." For me, her words pierced me. But this time, the pain carried no poison. It was an ache that healed as it cut. I cupped her face, brushing a loose strand of hair from her cheek, just as I had done when she was little and afraid of thunderstorms. "You see me now?" I murmured. "And that's all that matters." She shook her head fiercely. "No, it's not enough. I want to make it right." Tears blurred my vision, but I smiled. "You already have." For a long moment, the courthouse steps faded. There was only the two of us, mother and daughter, two women bound not by betrayal, but by truth reclaimed. Behind us, the heavy doors groaned again. David emerged. The swagger he once wore like armor had fallen away. His shoulders slumped, his eyes hollow. He looked at Emily, desperate, searching for a shred of loyalty. But she turned her face from him, tightening her grip on my arm. That was the moment I knew. I hadn't just reclaimed my dignity. I had reclaimed my daughter. Rachel followed close behind, heels striking fast and furious against the stone. Her gaze stayed fixed on the ground. She didn't dare meet mine. The same attorney who once strutted into court dripping with confidence now walked into the sunlight with her head bowed. Karma doesn't always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the silence that trails a fallen voice. And that silence clung to Rachel as she descended those steps. Emily and I moved slowly, each step peeling away another layer of the past. Years of invisibility, of whispered insults, of sacrifices erased. "Mom?" Emily asked at last, her voice steadier now. "What will you do next?" I looked out at the horizon, the sunlight painting the city gold. For years I had lived inside the margins of someone else's story, always supporting, never center stage. But now? Now there was a blank page waiting. "I'll live," I said simply. "Not just survive, not just sacrifice. I'll live." Her lips curved into a smile, tentative, tender. For the first time in years, I saw the little girl she used to be, the one who once believed her mother could do anything. We reached the car. I opened the door, but before sliding in, I turned back for one last look at the courthouse. Its columns rose tall and stern, but it no longer towered over me. That building had once trapped the truth inside. Today, the truth had walked out with me. As we drove away, the noise of reporters faded, replaced by the hum of the city and Emily's quiet breathing beside me. My thoughts turned outward toward the women who might be watching this story unfold from their living rooms, kitchens, or hospital beds. Women who had sacrificed in silence, who had been told they were nothing, who had been betrayed by the very people they gave everything to. If you are one of them, let me tell you this: you are not invisible. Your sacrifices matter. Your truth matters. And one day, it will speak louder than every lie told about you. Respect isn't handed down by bloodlines or job titles. Respect is earned through love, through kindness, through courage. That is the lesson I want you to carry with you today. But let me turn the question to you. If you were in my shoes, sitting in that courtroom while they tried to erase your life, what would you have done? Would you have stayed silent, or would you have fought? Have you ever witnessed injustice in your own family, a betrayal that cut deeper than words? If so, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments below. Here, in this community, every story matters. No one suffers in silence. And if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of your own strength, your own worth, then leave a message for yourself in the comments, a promise that you will never again let anyone erase you. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to Twist Stories and hit the notification bell. Because here, we honor sacrifice, we expose betrayal, and we celebrate those unforgettable moments when the tables turn. This isn't just my story, it's ours, and it is proof that in the end, truth does not bow.